Hi, welcome. Today we will cover the capital accumulation, centralization of capital, and monopolization chapter of the Marxian economics. And in many ways, actually, this chapter is the most important chapter because the investment behavior of the companies is actually at the center of the dynamics of capital system, since capital is a major productive, major element that makes productive decisions, and actually which dynamic is kind of regulating the capitalist system. And also, well, it's those dynamics are central to the other dynamics of capitalism. And I will define also many major trends which exist according to Marx in capitalist economic system. Uh, well, let's start with the chapter. The first thing I should mention is actually capital accumulation concept, which is actually sums of all actions that increase amount of capital used in the economic system, which means actually the capitalists are increasing the amount of capital they govern, basically. How do they do that? They do that through what is called as investments. Well, capital accumulation can also be taught as a specific type of investment, but specific type of investment because investments can be in different done in also different ways. Typically, it is like bringing more machines, more and more machines into the factory. You might think it visualize it this way, and basically, the main aim of the capital accumulation is increase scale of production, produce more of the same product. So basically, in order to do that, capitalists may change the production technique. Previously, people might be producing things with more small tools. Previously, one person might be focusing on a particular type of production, but then, in order to be more productive, production can be done in assembly lines, maybe done in stations. So different techniques might be used. So, in that sense, it is one type of investment which is increasing scale of production. Well, investments can also be done to decrease the unit costs and improve product being sold. We might ask which type is mostly seen type of, let's say, investments. Well, obviously, in capitalist economic system, we have seen a lot of new products and improvements in the type of products sold. However, a significant portions of these new products were also produced to use in production process, and this basically shows us something. Well, for capitalists, basically, especially when what they sell is not their personal aim. They are not interested in the qualities of what they sell, beyond the fact that they are bought by someone else. So what they sell is not serving to their need, or they are not dictated by any social need. Besides, they just want their product to be bought. But after that, what happens? They don't care for that. And well, basically, they might be caring if the productivity increase and they sell 4 chairs instead of 8 chairs. But as long as the profit they get from the 8 chairs is same as profit they get from the 4 chairs, that might also be not that critical. What they may actually care is, well, they might care the amount of the size of the market they dominate. So if they sell just a very, very little portion of the market, they might rather like it to be enlarged, and this might be one way for them one way for them to increase their profit. And to some extent, they do it by product differentiation, but a significant portion of it is by telling that my product is much different than the other product. But a significant portion of the product differentiation is done through the advertisements, not through the changing the changing the actual product, like Coca-Cola does. They are selling the same product, but finding always different ways to advertise that product. But another way is decreasing the cost of the production. If you decrease the cost of the production, then you can basically sell the same product for a much cheaper price. And many new experimental things, like cars, for example, when they enter to the market, actually, they enter to the market when usually small businesses, kind of experimental businesses, done by some visionaries, were basically are the first ones that actually create those very new products. But then another visionary like Henry Ford take that product and actually make it possible to mass produce it. And that's done basically by decreasing the unit costs. And decreasing the unit costs gives you an advantage because you sell it for a cheaper price, which might basically make the market expand. But more importantly, because you are shipping the same product for a cheaper price, you are able to increase the scale of production. So if you have a completely new product, you have basically the risk that maybe your product might not be bought by the consumers. But if you produce the same product for a cheaper price, well, it's very much likely people will still buy. At least the people who were buying that product will buy your product. And if your price is cheaper, you might get a higher share from the market. So decreasing the unit costs and increasing scale of production is one of the major way capital gets accumulated or investments are done in the economic system. According to Marxian analysis, actually, that's what capital accumulation basically is ending up to. So in capitalist system, you have continuous increase, and basically the same thing is produced more. So scale, the products that were always produced are produced at much larger quantities. As for creation of the new products, well, the inventions are done, a significant portion of them, to decrease the unit costs, create new production methods, and is a portion of those new inventions that are used in production are also applied to the consumption. So that's one thing, and the increasing scale of production. You might also see that basically one of the most important variables in economics is growth. Why? Because it's important that scale production in the whole economic system is also continuously increasing. If the scale of production in the whole economic system is stable, that means the company starts to eat each other's share instead of growing the market share, which is considered as something bad for the economic system. So that's one thing. I mean, the continuous increasing scale of production is one of the main characteristics of the capitalist system, much more than the improving the product that is sold. And you might also see actually in Turkey, especially, there was this famous old school restaurants like Sultanahmet Köftecisi, Sultanahmet Meatball House, which was basically had only one location, very famous, and basically they were basically producing meatballs and with very limited menu. But later, at first, actually, in 1990s, one of the family members has told to maybe we should expand our meatball restaurant and create a chain. The father, the head of the family, said actually, according to the rumors at least, we should not do that because it will decrease our quality. And actually, that family members anyway do that, so they have created a secondary Sultan Ahmet meatball house, which did not have that good quality. Actually, it was like frozen. They were making frozen, cooking for frozen meatballs. But later in 2000s, actually, we had another type of meatball chain, Köfteci Ramiz, which actually were able to produce meatballs with the same, with similar quality of the famous meatball houses, at least in terms of taste. We don't know, of course. I don't know the details of the health qualities of the meatball they produce. And even the original Sultan Ahmet meatball house starts to actually expand. They have at least 2 other restaurants in Istanbul. So this expansion, increasing scale of production, is one thing that is irresistible for the companies in the capitalist system in many ways. So, basically, to summarize, for Marx, capital accumulation aims to increase the scale of production. You need to produce more of the same thing. And while you do that, you increase the capital amount in terms of its value and basically, and physical amount also that represents the capital should be increased by the companies. And by doing that, the companies tend to increase C, non-labor inputs, with respect to B, labor inputs. So they increase the amount of non-labor inputs in the production. They produce always additional inputs, more inputs. With respect to labor, those new inputs will increase. Those inputs might include machinery, or other tools, but those inputs might also include other types of things. For example, the catering services they got from other companies to feed their workers is one of the part of the C. Or any other types of services they got directly, they buy from the companies, is part of the C. Or the chemical inputs they might use, for example, in agriculture, are part of C. They use more electricity, that's part of C. So C represents all non-labor inputs, including the non-tangible ones, non-physical ones, services, or even even information, for example, that is bought from another company, is part of C. And according to Marx, that C is expected to increase, and we will see why. And I next time actually I also want to study what does it mean for the whole economy when C increases. But for now we are looking for the individual companies. What is their experience basically? So. Well, let me introduce this problem and then stop from here. Well, in order to see the physical example of the case I have described, assume there is a car producer, and that producer is producing 500 cars, and it is using 2,500 labor hour worth of constant capital, 1,500 labor worth of variable capital, and it wants to increase its production level to the fourfold, 2,000. How can it do that? It can just multiply the amount of capital it uses. It can use more V, or it can use more C. Which one will it choose, and what will be the consequences of what he does for the future? So I will discuss this problem in the next part of this lecture. See you then.